Intelligent design is not creationism, a clear distinction. Here, I will clarify why intelligent design is not synonymous with creationism and show how ID is grounded in scientific reasoning and evidence, distinct from the theological approach of creationism. 1. Definition of intelligent design. Intelligent design is a scientific theory that posits certain features of the universe and living organisms are best explained by an intelligent cause, not by undirected natural processes such as random mutation and natural selection. Proponents of ID argue that empirical evidence from fields like biology, cosmology, and physics points to the presence of purposeful design in nature. The key claim of ID is that nature exhibits patterns that are consistent with intelligent causes, similar to how we infer design when we see a machine or a written language. Importantly, ID does not make claims about the identity of the designer. It is not a religious argument, nor does it rely on sacred texts. Instead, it uses the same methodology employed in other scientific disciplines to detect patterns that suggest intelligence, such as archaeology, cryptography, and forensic science. 2. Definition of creationism. On the other hand, young Earth creationism is a religious belief that interprets the origin of life and the universe through the lens of sacred texts, particularly the Bible's book of Genesis. For instance, young Earth creationism asserts a young Earth, approximately 6,000 to 10,000 years old, the direct creation of life by God, and a rejection of mega-evolution on partly theological and partly scientific grounds. Young Earth creationists typically adhere to a literal interpretation of the biblical creation account, including a global flood and the special creation of humans. Young Earth creationism is based on faith commitments and seeks to defend specific religious doctrines. While it engages with scientific data, its conclusions are often predetermined by a particular interpretation of Scripture. This contrasts with ID, which is open to following the evidence wherever it may lead, even if the designer's identity remains unspecified. 3. Methodological differences. The primary distinction between intelligent design and creationism lies in their methodologies. Intelligent design follows the scientific method. It starts with empirical data, develops hypotheses, and tests them against observable phenomena. For example, in biology, ID theorists argue that certain molecular machines, such as the bacterial flagellum or the ATP synthase, show signs of irreducible complexity, a system of interacting parts that would cease to function if any one part were removed. This shows these systems could not have evolved gradually through natural selection because intermediate stages would not be functional. In cosmology, ID proponents point to the fine-tuning of the universe's physical constants, such as the strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, or the cosmological constant, as evidence of design. The probabilities of these constants being set in a life-permitting way by random chance are astronomically low, suggesting an intelligent cause. Young Earth creationism, by contrast, often begins with the authority of a particular interpretation of religious texts. While young Earth creationists may also engage with scientific evidence, their framework is bound by specific theological interpretations. For example, young Earth creationism rejects scientific findings about the age of the universe, approximately 13.8 billion years, and Earth, about 4.5 billion years, at least in part because these findings conflict with their interpretation of the biblical timeline. 4. No theological presupposition in ID. Intelligent design does not rely on any particular religious text or tradition. It is a scientific inference based on observable features of nature. This is one of the key reasons it is distinct from young Earth creationism. While young Earth creationism explicitly ties its claims to a particular religious narrative, ID does not attempt to define the nature, identity, or motivations of the designer. The inference design in ID is based purely on the scientific evidence of complexity, information content, and fine-tuning. For example, William Dembski's specified complexity concept in ID shows how patterns in nature carry information that suggests intentionality, similar to how human artifacts or computer programs exhibit information that is both complex and ordered for a specific function. The discovery of DNA as a highly specified information-bearing molecule, containing the instructions for life, is another key argument for design in biology. 5. Examples of design inferences in science. Let's explore a couple of examples to highlight how intelligent design works as a scientific approach, distinct from young Earth creationism. Example 1. The fine-tuning of the universe. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence for design comes from the field of cosmology, where scientists have discovered that the universe is fine-tuned for life. For instance, the cosmological constant, which controls the expansion of the universe, must be fine-tuned to an extraordinary degree for life to exist. If it were slightly stronger or weaker, the universe would either have collapsed upon itself or expanded too rapidly for stars and galaxies to form. This fine-tuning indicates that the conditions for life are not the result of blind chance, but rather an intelligently arranged set of parameters. ID theorists point out that while naturalism cannot explain this improbability, a design hypothesis makes sense of it. Example 2. Biological machines. In molecular biology, certain cellular structures resemble machines that human engineers would design. One well-known example is the bacterial flagellum, a complex rotary motor that allows bacteria to swim. It consists of dozens of precisely arranged proteins, each necessary for the function of the motor. ID theorists argue that such systems exhibit irreducible complexity, meaning that they could not have evolved through successive, slight modifications, because the system would lose function if any one part were removed. Creationists might argue that such systems were directly created by God in a way that fits their interpretation of Genesis, but ID does not require that assumption. Instead, ID merely infers that an intelligent cause is the best explanation for the existence of such systems, regardless of when or how that intelligence acted. 6. Theological neutrality of intelligent design. Finally, one of the clearest distinctions between intelligent design and creationism is theological neutrality. Creationism is explicitly tied to Christian doctrines, particularly regarding the creation of life and the universe. It posits a specific creator, God of the Bible, acting in a particular way described in religious texts. Intelligent design, however, does not specify the nature of the designer. The identity of the designer is outside the scope of the theory. ID simply argues that some features of the universe and life are best explained by an intelligent cause. Whether this designer is the God of the Bible, some other deity, or even an extraterrestrial intelligence is not a question ID attempts to answer. This neutrality allows ID to remain focused on the scientific evidence for design. Conclusion. A clear distinction. In summary, intelligent design is not creationism. While both views affirm design, their approaches are fundamentally different. ID is a scientific theory grounded in the observation of complexity and fine-tuning in the natural world, while young Earth creationism is a theological belief rooted in a particular interpretation of Scripture. ID makes no religious claims, does not identify the designer, and is open to following the scientific evidence wherever it leads. This clear distinction is essential for understanding the role of intelligent design as a legitimate scientific inquiry into the origins of life and the universe. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and comment below if you agree or would like to add your thoughts. If you would like me to respond to your comment, please make a level 1 comment directly below the video. I will respond to all polite level 1 comments even if it takes me a while, due to other commitments.